Get that little sip in.
What's up, Bears fans? It's RP here of Dub Bears Essentials, sitting with my counterpart, Dr. Oozing Mathismo, and we're back live. You are in Indianapolis doing some covert Bear scouting right now.
Right.
It's good to see you, man. How you been?
Oh, doing extremely well, RP. Doing great. Football is back. Preseason, some ups and downs, but what a great time of year. It's great to be here, man.
Always, football season is something to look forward to, especially now for Bears fans that we have a potential franchise quarterback. But we will get to that in a second. Now, again, if you know us, we are Bears Essentials. You can find us on YouTube. You can subscribe below. You can also like the video. That would help a ton. You can find us on Facebook as well at Bears Essentials and on Instagram and all that fun stuff. But anyways, we are Bears Essentials bringing to you live, and interesting takes on what your Chicago Bears are doing with their football team. I'm so curious right now to know what you're thinking, because the Bears have had 2 preseason games.
Mm-hmm.
One, winning 20-13 over the Dolphins, right, where Justin Fields looked very impressive. We're running and throwing for a touchdown, moving in and out of the pocket. The first team offense had probably 1 series, and it was a 3-and-out. The second game, we all know what happened there. There was, there seemed to be outplayed and outcoached 41-15 to the Bills. And the first team played about 3 or 4 series. Only coming away with 1 touchdown to Rodney Adams, who's had a good camp so far.
Mm-hmm.
But that game was kind of lopsided, including the performance by Justin Fields, which, he still showed he can move outside of the pocket, but got hit very hard in the face with a helmet.
Yep.
By a blitzing linebacker. And recovered very strongly and well, and he's a tough kid. But that was a lack of effort, it seems. So, give me the take on what you saw from the first 2 preseason games.
Wow. So, what we saw, I think, when you take both games combined, what you're seeing is really the level of competition that they're playing against, right? So, the Miami Dolphins are a solid team, and there's a lot of potential there. But the Bills, they're one of the AFC's best teams, and they're competing potentially for a championship. Now, they weren't playing their starting quarterback, Allen. So it was a little bit disappointing to see, even though they're a solid Bills team, to be so effective with a backup, with their second string quarterback, a guy that we all know. So that's what it seems like to me. It's like the Buffalo Bills are a really good team that are going to be challenging for the Super Bowl. And the Miami Dolphins are, potentially right with the Bears, just fighting, scrapping for some level of recognition here.
So in a way, we're saying that the overall depth in general is indicative of how good the team really is as well.
Definitely. It's the depth, but I think you made the point about the coaching as well. The philosophy. I mean, let's look at how Mitchell Trubisky came out against the Chicago Bears. And, it seemed to me like the Bears were playing a pretty predictable style of defense. Like the first few drives, those slant routes were just killing us. But we saw Mitchell Trubisky, get out on the move. We saw him get outside of the pocket, escape the pocket. And we saw, but basically the point is that the offensive coordinator appeared to do things with Mitchell Trubisky to really take advantage of his strengths, his quick twitch, the quick, getting rid of the ball quickly, putting him on the move. The touchdown, one of the touchdowns that he had in the red zone where he scrambles to the right and kind of throws back across the middle. I mean, these are the things that I was hoping to see Mitchell Trubisky do over the course of 4 years, and it really never materialized. So you see the difference in coaching and the ability to take advantage of a player's strengths.
And a team's weaknesses, and they knew that both of our two linebackers were out of the game, and really took advantage of that. So kudos to them. And again, to me, that is also alarming because you're talking about the difference in coaching here and the level of coaching. And I don't think anyone in Chicago is yet completely sold on Nagy and his offensive guru mindset, whatever they want to call him.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when we're talking about now being in the situation with Justin Fields and his starting quarterback, Andy Dalton. That is probably the biggest thing that anyone's talking about in Chicago at this point. And if you went back to the first game, oh, that's cool, man. You got important call. It's the president.
All day, all times of day and night, RP.
Mr. Biden. So anyways, he impressed in the first game. And again, he's playing against second and third stringers, let's say. And he knows that. He knows he's been practicing against a first team defense and a Bears defense that's pretty talented. So he looked good against a mediocre team, which is, I think, the way you put it. And again, the Bills' second. This is the second half, so this was more the third strings, fourth strings, going on playing. I believe in that at that part of the game, which was not good to see because it showed to me that the Bears coaching staff, was out coached because from top to bottom it seemed like we were being outplayed.
Absolutely. Yeah. From top to bottom. I think against the Bills, that is definitely the case, and this is our first shows. We're kind of talking about two games and just the difference overall in terms of the defensive output from week 1 to week 2. I think in week 1, what we saw was, Desai he was bringing the pressure. He was really letting his front seven come after the quarterback to attack. And in game 2, we saw a more passive style of defense in the defensive line, kind of like the lack of blitzing and pressure, and the soft coverage as well. So, it is preseason, RP, so we're not really sure. Are the coaches trying to put players in position to kind of stress them out to see how they respond, how they perform in vanilla coverages, vanilla plays, without necessarily strategizing to take advantage of the other team. But you know what? We're a team at this point in time that's looking not to find like who's going to be the 53rd guy on our team. We really are trying to take our team, we're trying to raise the ceiling of our team. And I think that the coaches, I would like to see the coaches put a little bit more time and effort into their game planning, into their strategy, and seeing how their strategic initiatives play out.
Oh, yeah, okay. A couple things. Let's go back to Coach Desai. Are we feeling confident about him going into the last preseason game and then the regular season? It seems like the players like him. He's a Vic Fangio guy.
Right.
But again, the coach's job too is supposed to be a motivator, right?
Sure.
So who is that on? Is that just kind of a preseason thing too? And the defense seemed to know that they had two linebackers out, and Eddie Jackson was kind of like, "Oh, I'll do some tackling practice, some ankle tackling practice."
Yeah, right.
I'm not criticizing because I understand. Like, I wouldn't understand because I would never get a paycheck like that. So you know what I mean. But it's a preseason game. Your defense is basically cut in half.
Right.
And then your D line isn't really playing most of the game either. Your starting D line, so. they didn't look great against against Mitch Trubisky and the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. So, I mean, RP, it's a great question. You would think that the Chicago Bears, at least the players on their defense, would be looking forward to playing against Mitchell Trubisky, considering how much time they practiced against him. You know what I mean? And I feel like there was a little bit of pride on the line here. And while Mitrell might be pretty excited about Trubisky's performance, I have to feel like most of the Bears defensive players and the city in general feels a little bit deflated after allowing essentially our guy, the guy that we let go, to have basically one of the best games that he's ever had.
Right.
To see that.
Right. And coming back to schematically, I want to kind of go into potentially some Bear schematics. And I want to talk about that whole game plan that you were saying. It almost seems that at times that the game plan that Nagy really wants to institute would be better off serving a guy who's mobile.
Mm-hmm.
He loves RPOs. He loves to move it around. Even when Dalton was in there and running these plays with the first team, the offense still seemed to be catered to Justin Fields.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good point.
It's the preseason. We know they're not showing much, right?
But I think that you're making a really good point in that, Andy Dalton as the QB1, it really doesn't seem like they're giving him an opportunity to really take advantage of his strengths.
No, they're not even playing him. I guess he's not also going to play at all in the last preseason game, I guess. So that's news to me.
And that's tough because, as fans, this is a situation where, we're all waiting for, anticipating Justin Fields at some point in time taking the reins. But that doesn't mean that we have to throw Andy Dalton under the bus, and really not provide him with opportunities to develop and show what he has in the league. So, I guess maybe I should stop harping a little bit on the coaching. Again, it is a preseason game, but when you see such a dramatic difference in terms of performance from the players, schematically, from a philosophy of calling plays and running plays offensively and defensively, it does raise questions about what their thought process is, and what are they doing in order to ensure that their teams are ready to play week one. And at this point in time, I feel like there's a little bit more questions. There are more questions than answers. Having said that, we're seeing some solid performances from certain players. And again, we're hoping that they can contribute to our team and helping us, become a better team this year. But again, we're not looking for the backups to really be the impact players for us. We're really looking for the Khalil Macks, and we're looking for the Quinns, the guys who are making the money and who, we have put our faith in terms of leading us and guiding us to a better team this year. Those are the players. Those are the individuals that we want to see performing at a high level at this point in time.
Most definitely. This is a perfect time to then break down what I want to call Bear schematics. So let's start rock and roll.
Mathismo coming to show all the people in the homes, the X's and O's. Bear schematics. Mathismo coming to show all the people in the homes, the X's and O's. Bear schematics. Mathismo coming to show all the people in the homes, the X's and O's. Bear schematics. Mathismo coming to show all the people in the homes, the X's and O's. Bear schematics. Mathismo coming to show all the people in the homes, the X's and O's. Bear schematics. Mathismo coming to show all the people in the homes.
Ooh. Oh, man.
Yeah, boy.
Schematic for the day comes from Sporty Sam.
Oh, nice.
Way down the way. dropped in and had a question about the O-line, which is what our whole Bear schematics is based on this week. So her question is, in the Miami game, the commentator referenced the defensive line as beefy, quote unquote, at least twice. What are your thoughts on that? Question mark. Do you agree? Question mark. No.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh man.
Me? Okay. So I would say that the Bears definitely, and we're talking about the Bears, right? Or we're talking about the Bears O-line or D-line? I'm sorry, it was breaking up.
The defensive line.
For the Bears.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
I believe he intended that we were beefy. So
Yes.
that was a good thing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Well, I think beef can be better than pork, and so I would rather be a muscular, beefy dude than a chubby, rotund, porky guy. But look, our Bears defensive line that's one of the most exciting aspects of our team. And I feel like this is one of the areas where we've definitely improved the most from a player personnel perspective. And, we saw that quite a bit in the first game against Miami, where we were seeing essentially guys up and down the defensive line at different depths from the starters to the backups to, players that we aren't really even familiar with. Number 90, Blackson, guy that we got from the Texans, he was in the backfield several times. And so I think that a big part of his success and the big part of what's going to contribute to the success of the Bears defensive line this year, their team in general, is going to be the size, the beefiness, the strength, and the overall capabilities of their defensive line. And when you have guys like Eddie Goldman and Bilal Nichols, and we're talking about basically a group of 300-pound plus defensive linemen who are showing aggression, they're showing strength, and so I'm excited. I feel like their line this year has the potential to be significantly better than it was last year. So beefy, I think that's a pretty good word to describe the Bears' defensive line.
I would too. I think that also a big part of their D line is they have a beefy character. So if Akeem Hicks, I think is by definition a beefy man.
Definitely.
So
you look up beefy in the dictionary, and there's basically it's Akeem Hicks. He's
probably a vegan.
Yeah.
But no, thanks for the question, Sporty Sam. Good to hear from you. And I really hope the other question I wanted to kind of get into with Bear schematics and the offensive line was this carousel and the poor play, the obviously the preseason poor play. It seems that we still haven't even found the Band-Aid for the cut.
Yeah.
That we have, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. As far as our offensive line is concerned.
And now we're hoping that a 40-year-old veteran can come in and do that. What are your thoughts on this? What good can come of this offensive line with either Dalton starting or Fields?
Well, I definitely think that the offensive line would be better under Fields just because of his mobility. I mean, we saw it in both preseason games. We saw the escapability, and we saw Justin Fields continuing to look downfield, wanting to make plays and throwing the ball down the field, right? And so his mobility is going to help out the offensive line quite a bit. Andy Dalton, on the other hand, it was kind of funny almost watching him try to escape the pocket and just try to find just a little bit of time to throw the ball out of bounds, and not take a sack. And so their mobility for sure is going to play a huge role in the effectiveness of the offensive line. I think in addition to that, when we're seeing Andy Dalton, for the most part, you could tell that the scheme around Dalton, well, both quarterbacks is, trying to be in the pocket a lot of the time. And we're going to see this with Andy Dalton, but just kind of being in the pocket, reading reading, looking, progressing in reads. And so as smart as I think that Nagy could be, the fact is that his style is putting a lot of pressure on the offensive line to hold up in pass protection. And again, another thing that we're seeing is a lack of real balance in the run and passing game.
Sure.
And so if I was an offensive lineman for the Bears, I would probably feel more comfortable with Justin Fields just because of his mobility. And I would really be yearning for better balance to take pressure off me and take pressure off the offensive line in pass protection.
And take pressure off of Mathismo.
I know.
There's just way too much pressure. Just building, especially when there's no tackle. So, I think that's something to look for in this next game, and then obviously the first game of the season.
Yeah.
How Nagy truly has prepared Andy Dalton for this first game.
Ooh.
Like, everyone thinks that he is going to be a sitting duck, but so it's on Nagy now, since he's sticking to his guns, to show that he's able to scheme a game plan that's going to work to protect this guy, which means you better be able to run, which is like I'll give Khalil Herbert some cred, and he ran really hard in that first game. And again, Buffalo game was a different story. Really run on both sides, except for Justin Fields was shut down. So just kind of putting that out there in the universe. We have another question I'd love to ask the doctor. This one's coming from Matthew Perkowski. Question: what's with Eddie Jackson changing his number to 4? Was it because 41 was still unavailable? Well, I don't know if he's a 41 guy. It definitely looks different in 4. He kind of looks.
Right.
I don't know if he looks like taller or something else. There's something else going on there.
I'm into numbers, and the number 41 is not one of my favorites. To be honest with you, 39 wasn't one of my favorite numbers, but I feel like over time Eddie Jackson was looking good in that. Let's just remember Eddie Jackson was at the University of Alabama, where he played safety. He was an amazing punt returner, and his number was 4. So I think he's just taking it back to college, maybe taking it even back to high school, as far as we know. So we'll see. We'll see how some of these defenders start using the single digits, and we'll see how these jerseys start getting up into the rafters, the Hall of Fame and whatnot.
Yeah, that's going to be weird. There's quite a few changes in uniform. So finishing with the offense, let's put it all out there with the quarterbacks, and talk about Justin Fields versus Andy Dalton. My stance. I would start him now and play him with the ones as much as possible, even relatively into the half, and in this last preseason game with the starters, maybe more like a quarter, because I think if he would have started him by the time beginning of camp, at this point there would be a game plan that was competitive. I hope I'm wrong. What do you say? Do you not put that kid out there with a bad O-line? And
well, let's think about week 1 we saw him running around. He looked amazing with his passing, his mobility, his command of and his presence just being on the field. Week 2, I feel like he still demonstrated the arm, the accuracy, placement, mobility. But we also saw him get hit so hard his helmet flew off the top of his head, and this little headband that he had
it's just
snug around his head
spun like a tap.
Yeah, so I don't like seeing that, And so my biggest concern for a Justin Fields, especially early in the season, is the potential for him to take hits. Now, having said that, and agreeing with your point, we haven't really seen that much Mooney. We haven't seen A-Rob. We haven't seen really Cole Kmet that much. And so a lot of the weapons that we would like to see available to our first string quarterback, they haven't been out there. Now, what we are seeing is Andy Dalton making passes to number 13 Adams, right? And what would be nice to see, and I agree with you, is if Justin Fields was in a position, a game time situation, where we can see him developing rapport with Mooney, developing rapport with Allen Robinson, and some of these weapons that they have out there. And if we were able to see that as fans, maybe we would be even more convinced, more excited about what Justin Fields can do, because right now he's really not throwing the ball to people that they might not even be on the team, in 2 weeks. So
right, and that's my thing too, and my whole base on Nagy's plan is that it's different from Mahomes, and kids can come in at as rookies and win. Now times are different.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a lot of opportunity for a good team to be there right now. So another question here: will that rookie Khalil Herbert live up to Jordan Howard? I don't know.
Wow, those are some big shoes to fill. Number 24. Wow.
Montgomery is not going to be able to take all the carries,
Yep. So, if you look back at Khalil Herbert, hey baby, so he is you look at his college highlights. This is a guy who's very productive, and he has certainly the body type, the skill set to be effective. And as we all know, running backs you can find very solid running backs lower in the draft. And I think that's really what they found. This guy is really under the radar, where when David Montgomery came in, he was essentially replacing Jordan Howard. So there was a little bit more buzz around him, a little bit more like, hey, this is a guy we're scouting and we feel like he could be a replacement. So Herbert's coming in to this situation with really not a lot of eyes on him. And I think that that's a great situation for a running back to be in, to develop. But he does have, I think, home run ability. And so I really look forward to seeing that. And whether that's as a running back or whether that's a kick returner, I feel like he's going to do a pretty good job for the Bears. Maybe not replace our Jordan Howard, who was a beast, a load as a running back, and definitely one of our best running backs in the last 10 years. But I think that he has the potential to continue to develop and make significant contributions.
Well, I'm hoping that both of our running backs will have strong seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on a little bit further and deeper into this question about the quarterbacks. And when you're talking about Justin Fields, what would be the benefits of starting him in the first game?
Well, talent. I mean, let's be honest. We all know that he is more talented than Andy Dalton, right? And so he's more mobile. He's got a great arm. I mean, he appears to be better than Andy Dalton right now from a physical perspective, right? The main issue, so the potential to get productivity out of the quarterback position that we haven't seen potentially ever, in our life, that is there. Another potential benefit, like you said, if he has opportunity to start week one for the Bears, then you would assume that Nagy and Laser and the staff would give him reps with the first team and to develop. And I think that could accelerate his development.
Sure. Which would be great.
Yeah, it would be great. It would be great.
But it is not going to happen that number one quarterback will be Andy Dalton come Monday or come Sunday night in LA. This weekend we are going against the Titans in our last preseason game I think that Justin Fields will play 2 quarters, and Andy Dalton will be sitting. One more question. Do you think that Andy Dalton should be sitting, or do you think he should be taking reps with these guys, at least a couple series?
I think Andy Dalton should definitely be taking some snaps. And, when you look at our squad right now, we basically have 2 quarterbacks, right? We have Dalton and we have Fields. And, our track record of maintaining a healthy quarterback for 16 games, we need to have 2 quarterbacks that are prepared to come in, step in, and play at a high level to get us to win now. So Andy Dalton, I don't necessarily see him as our long-term starter throughout the course of the season, but he definitely needs more work to complete more than 3 passes in the preseason. Like, his completion percentage is not very good. His ability to maintain drives. I mean, if for nobody else, just for Andy Dalton, so that he can develop a little bit of confidence in himself.
That's what I would say. Even in his own right, he had the chance last year to do what he's got to do this year,
right?
And he didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when did he earn the ability not to have to play at all in the preseason? And I think that kind of shows a certain attitude from the coaching staff. But that's just me. Mm-hmm. I want to tell everyone again, if you like the Bears Essentials, I'm RP, and this is Dr. Oozing Mathismo, and we are on every Tuesday night. We're going to be around 8:15 now, so we're a little bit earlier and in prime time.
Yeah.
So if you like us, please subscribe. You can also like this video and leave us some messages and comments, and we always get back to fans if we can. We're going to continue and next week with another Bears Essentials, not only episode during the week, but also our live podcast on Tuesday. So check with us after the Titans game. We can maybe talk about how we're going to go into this first game of the season with the Rams. And I believe you and I will be there live in person, man.
Yes. Press passes. It's so nice to, finally be getting some recognition for all of our hard work here with Bear Essentials. So I'm just super excited to have those box seats, to get that, behind the scenes look, and to really just be brought into this league, this NFL, and this franchise that we love so much. So thanks to the Bears, and thanks to everyone for supporting us and, helping us continue on with this.
Yeah, it's always a blast talking football, and we could do this for hours, but, the show's got to end, and we're going to say goodnight from here. So, I'm RP. That's the doctor.
Dr. Mathismo.
We'll see you guys next week. Bear down.